it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's vlog. If you did not know, one of my goals for the year is to read my physical TBR. It's something that I've been working on for several years already. The process is going well. Could be going better. In order to help that goal out, today I am going to do a vlog where I read the best and the worst books that are on my physical TBR according to Goodreads. Now, a little caveat, Goodreads is Goodreads, so the average rating on Goodreads for a book is not something that I always care about. As a matter of fact, in general, I do not care what a book's average rating is. I care much more what the reviews for the book say, and if there are people that I trust their opinions or I know their taste aligns with mine, I care much more about like what they have to say about a book, because reading is subjective and Goodreads average rating means literally nothing. It means nothing. Okay? However, this is just a fun little silly stupid video. I do have a shelf on Goodreads that is my physical TBR, and I'm gonna be real, it is not 100% accurate, but like also, does it matter? No, this is not a scientific experiment, so it doesn't matter that some of my physical TBR is missing from that shelf. I looked on that shelf and I sorted it by the highest rating and then sorted it by the lowest rating. And in this video, I will be reading A Wilderness of Stars by Shea Ernshaw. This currently has an average rating of 3.45. Honestly, still pretty good rating. Anything that's over a 3, I think, is a pretty good rating on Goodreads. I don't remember what this book is about. I got it like a year and a half ago, and all I know is it's a young adult fantasy, and it does involve like some type of like astrological or astronomy themes. I'm not entirely sure, but I know that like reading the stars is important in the book. I just don't remember how. This is the book that I will be starting with because it is the lower rated book. Again, that means nothing to me. Shea Ernshaw has written 3 books that I have read. I have loved 2 of them. And then the other book, I had very mixed feelings about. There were parts of it that I really don't think worked, but parts of it that I actually really loved. You know, overall, Shea Ernshaw has a pretty good record for me, so hopefully this is a book that I enjoy. The second book, the highest rated book on my current TBR, is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. This is Secret Project number 3, and this currently has an insane rating of 4.49. From what I have seen of people that I trust their opinions, this definitely seems to be an excellent book. But I also know that this is Brandon Sanderson, so it's going to have a bunch of people rating it 5 stars that like honestly probably haven't read it just because it's Brandon Sanderson and they love him as an author. I am a Brandon Sanderson fan. I do rate the majority of his books 4 or 5 stars, so I am set up to really like this. The reviews from people whose taste aligns with mine also make me think that I'm really going to like this. Honestly, this should be a great vlog. I am set up to really enjoy both of these books. It should be a fun time, and we're just gonna see what happens in this vlog. I am gonna go get started reading, and I will check in later. So, good morning. I have some bad news. I have made it halfway into A Wilderness of Stars and I can't do it anymore. I have to DNF this book. I just can't do it anymore. I am so bored. I do not care. I wanted to do an update at like 100 pages in, but then I just kept waiting, hoping that something would happen, and I kept reading, hoping that I would have a good update for the vlog, you know, that I could tell you guys, hey, I'm enjoying this book. Like, yeah, it started off slow, but like it's getting better. And I can't anymore. Like, I absolutely cannot. I am so freaking bored in this book. Let me break it down and we'll start in the beginning. So in this book, the premise is that you follow Vega, and this is a dystopian world. Vega lives in this like isolated valley with her mother, and they have like one neighbor. I don't necessarily know all of the ins and outs in this world yet, but at this point, from what I've gathered, this is like the United States however many years into the future after we've destroyed everything, and something happened and it messed with like potentially the atmosphere of the earth. I'm not entirely sure exactly because like everyone's still like breathing and everything, but there's been like a lot of climate crisis things going on, and there's like this mention of like this like dead sky area where there's like no more stars, but like there used to be stars and something like that. So like I don't really know what's going on, but like people are struggling to live. Survival is much more difficult in this world, which is like, you know, a pretty common dystopian setup. I don't really have any issues with the world building, except for the fact that it seems that the author is keeping it intentionally vague. And I feel like she's keeping it intentionally vague as a way to build suspense and like intrigue in the story, but it is absolutely not working. The vagueness is making me bored. So like I don't really have like an issue with the way the world is being built, but also it is not helping the story either. And then the other thing too is that like the atmosphere is completely missing. In Shea Earnshaw's other two YA novels, which I loved both of the other two YA novels, they were like either light fantasy or magical realism, and the atmosphere was so good, and like I ate it up, and the atmosphere enhanced the reading experience and the world so much, and it just does not exist in this book. And also, like, why are the chapters so goddamn long? I know that that's irrelevant, and like at the end of the day, chapter length is just a creative decision, but like seriously, why are they so goddamn long? Anyways, Vega lives with her mother. Her mother and her are the last astronomers. So like it's a position that like is passed down. Basically, they have the knowledge. They have like the knowledge of the stars and constellations and what they mean and like how to use them. They live this isolated life where they just pass down this information from mother to daughter so that they can protect this knowledge. The hints that I'm getting at is that like the world is in trouble and they have the knowledge that can like save the earth. However, they can't like access the area that has the knowledge until like these twin stars show up in the sky. That is like kind of the guide point that they use to know where to get where they need to go so that they can save the world. Apparently, like the rest of the world knows about the astronomers, but they don't really have all the information, so like it's dangerous for them to like exist out in the world as astronomers, and if people like find them, they'll like want to like capture them or whatever, and it's like very nebulous and unclear like what people would do if they captured them. Like, obviously you don't want to be kidnapped. Like, I understand that. It seems like the outside world thinks that astronomers can save the world because they have like half knowledge, because the astronomers can save the world, but only after these stars appear in the sky. So I don't know. I really feel like maybe not hoarding this information would have been the best way to go. Like, maybe if you just like didn't hoard this information, you would be in a better situation. I don't know. Like, and it's also hard to describe because like it doesn't really work. Like, it does not really work. I don't think this premise has a solid enough footing to be an entire book. Basically, what I have gleaned from half of the book is Vega has this information passed down from her mother. And when these twin stars appear in the sky, she is supposed to use them as a guide marker. And that is the signal that she can leave the valley. She needs to leave the valley, find the architect, and then the architect will lead her to the ocean and apparently like probably build a boat. I would assume like build a boat because he's an architect. And then Vega will guide them using these twin stars somewhere to save the world. Like, that is the premise, I'm assuming. However, first of all, first loophole, why does the architect need to lead them to the ocean? Like, okay, I understand that like this is a dystopian world, so like potentially the world as we know it is different, like landmarks have changed. At this point in the world, wouldn't we have maps? Like, wouldn't we know where the ocean is? Because like people have electricity and running water and stuff like that. Like, resources are very scarce, but like it's not like we're living in the Stone Ages. Like, people can map things out. There are thriving towns. Well, I wouldn't say thriving, but there are towns everywhere, like people doing things. There is like trade between these different towns. So like, why do we need to find the ocean? Shouldn't we know where it is? First thing. Second thing, why do we need the architect to show where the ocean is? Because I would think we would only need the architect to like build the boat. Hear me out. The sailors used to navigate using the stars. And Vega is going to use the stars to navigate once we're on the boat, right? So why wouldn't she also be able to use the stars to navigate to the ocean? Also, at the beginning of the book, like Vega's mother passes away. She's sick and she dies. A lot of people in this world are sick. And it's kind of like hinted that like Vega's family is responsible for whatever catastrophe happened, and that's why they have to be the ones to like fix it. So, I mean, I do feel bad for Vega because she did lose her mom, and I do think there are some small snippets in here about grief that I think are well done. I mean, it's not really a major component of the book. The grief themes are like very, very, very minuscule, but I do think those portions are well done. So, like, I understand that Vega's mother is sick and she dies, and so Vega sees these twin stars and she has to make this journey alone. And I understand that she can't be fully prepared because her mother died and like Vega's only a teenager, and it was supposed to be like the two of them making this journey together, with her mother being like the actual astronomer and Vega just being like her daughter. However, if this is literally your life's purpose, why the hell does Vega not have any knowledge of how the world works? Why is she so unprepared to handle interacting with other humans without being a complete moron? And like, also, why is she so bad at surviving? I understand she leads an isolated life, but I want to make it clear it's not 100% isolated. And if you read the book, which I don't necessarily recommend at this point, you will know that like she does in fact have opportunities to learn about basic human interactions. And the other thing too is that even aside from that, why does she have no survival knowledge? Like, why can she not survive in the woods? If this is supposed to be like a top secret mission where her life is at stake and they're trekking into the unknown guided by the stars. Why does she not know how to survive? And so like it just frustrates me because Vega is just nothing. She doesn't have a personality and she has zero skills at literally anything other than like the knowledge of the stars. And I mean like absolutely zero skills. Like her critical thinking skills are so subpar, and also she has zero personality. I will say that there is one pro to this book, and that is that Shea Ernshaw is a very talented writer. Now here's the thing, like I just spent however long ranting about this book and kind of like tearing it apart, and you know what, all of that is true. However, like the actual writing style of it, like Shea Ernshaw's own writing, I do think is beautiful. I think Shea Ernshaw's writing is for those people who kind of like those like rambly, like stream of consciousness type of writing, like that type of writing, but Shea Ernshaw does it in like a very beautiful artistic way. And so I do appreciate the writing, and I think that's also what contributed to the atmosphere in her other books being so outstanding, is like the how beautiful she writes. But like it just, this book is not working. It is not working for me, and I cannot make myself read it anymore. So for my own mental health, I need to DNF this book. Kind of a negative update, so I'm sorry about that. I am now going to finish getting ready for stream, and then the next time I update you will probably be tomorrow or the day after, when I have a chance to dive into Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, which is the next book I'll be reading for this vlog. I couldn't tell you a single thing about the book other than the title, but once I'm a little bit into it, I'll have an update and I'll talk to you later. Hello, it is the next day, and I'm here to tell you that I have temporarily lost my mind. It is my birthday week, and Jake took me out to dinner. Jake also took me to 2 bookstores, and I bought books. One of the bookstores was a used bookstore. I also went to Barnes & Noble because it's my birthday. I got 5 books. That means in total I have got 8 new books this month. Oh no, 9, because also my friend Corey gifted me a book for my birthday. According to my book buying restrictions, I cannot get these books. So let me show you the books that I got. I got Winter's Orbit. This is an adult sci-fi novel, which I don't read very much sci-fi, but this is one that I've had my eye on because it's like this weird combination of a conspiracy mixed with a murder mystery, but like also there's this like gay arranged marriage of convenience for political reasons, and one of the men who's in this arranged marriage is the suspect for the murder, and maybe the person marrying him is like going to investigate it. Like, I don't know, it just sounds so intriguing. This is a book that like I wanted, but like I also, it was like kind of like on a medium priority list, so I hadn't bought it. So yeah, I also got A Master of Jinn. This is a fantasy, also murder mystery, which is kind of weird if you think about it. I don't get too many murder mystery books. Honestly, I don't know too much about this. I'm just getting this based off of the reviews, and I wanted to try out Peach Jelly Clark's as an author for a while, and I've heard good things about this one. Also, based off of the title, it probably has something to do with jinn and like potentially Middle Eastern mythology, which also is something that I find interesting. This is gonna give me a chance to try out a new author, which is very exciting for me. And then the final book that I got from the used bookstore is A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, or The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. If you did not know, I am actually rereading The Hunger Games this year for the first time. I've only read it once before, and it was like when the books came out, and so now I'm like rereading it with a fully formed adult brain. And I've only read The Hunger Games so far, but like honestly I loved it. It was like a 5-star read. I thought it was so fantastic. This is just giving me more motivation to get to the rest of the Hunger Games series because I desperately want to read this book. I went in with the intention of only buying one book, but you know, the best laid plans. First up, I want to show you, I got this. It's Final Fantasy XIV Eorzea Academy. This is like a little manga. It is just like this one-off. From what I have gathered, this is like sort of fan fiction of Final Fantasy, but like this has been approved. Like it says Square Enix manga on the back, so whoever like wrote this was like working with Square Enix and they approved it. But apparently it like reimagines all of your favorite characters in Final Fantasy XIV as if they're like students and teachers at Eorzea Academy. If you don't know, I love Final Fantasy XIV. I have over 3,000 hours in that game. Like I love it. And also the headmistress of the school is Tataru, which will mean nothing to you if you haven't played the game, but if you have, it is so funny and so absolutely appropriate that Tataru would be the headmistress. I know I said I was only gonna get one book, but like I had to get this. I had to. And like, to be fair, it's gonna take me like an hour to read max, so like it's fine. But like, shut up, it's so cute. So then the actual book that I got for my birthday trip is Sons of Darkness. I'm not even gonna lie, part of this is a cover buy. Yes. Yeah. It is gorgeous. But I was intrigued because I don't think I've heard anybody talking about this, but it sounds like super, super interesting. It follows a couple that are like senators in this country that's on the brink of revolution, and then you also follow a torturer and a pirate princess. Yes, sign me up. I love books that have pirates in them. I didn't realize before I read the Live Ship Traders, but like after I finished that series, like I thought back and I was like, damn, I love books that have pirates in them. The Poppy War has a couple pirate characters, Live Ship Traders, Tress of the Emerald Sea, The Princess Bride. These are all like favorite books of mine, and they all have pirates. So a pirate princess, how many times can I say pirate in one sentence? Drink every time? No, do not drink every time I say pirate. Don't do that. So there you go. There's a little birthday book haul. I also wanted to update because I am this far into Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and it's going great so far. I'm almost 100 pages in. I did not know anything about this to start, so I will now tell you because now I know what it's about. You follow Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I'm not gonna lie, I forget what the Nightmare Painter's real name is because he just goes by Painter. Yumi and Painter live on different worlds. The worlds are very, very different, but like we're already starting to see that there's like some type of weird connection between them. So on Painter's world, something weird happened, and now there's like this shroud, and it's like this like blackness that covers the entire planet basically, and people can only live in like certain areas where they have what's called Heion lines or Heion lines. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. It's kind of like neon lights, but it's this like naturally occurring it seems to be substance, and the humans have figured out how to harness this substance, and they use it to like light up cities and stuff, and also like to light up transportation between cities. Wherever the Heon lines are, this like shroud that's covering the world is kind of like pushed back. But the problem is that inside the shroud there are nightmares, and the nightmares will like periodically come out of the shroud, and so like that's why you need a nightmare painter, and that is Painter's job. So like every night he goes out, and like if he finds a nightmare, like it's actually really, really cool. First of all, like the idea of a nightmare painter is really cool, but like also I just love kind of the theme about nightmares in here. Like, so basically Painter looks at the nightmare and he has to be like, okay, this resembles this object. And then when he paints that object, it forces the nightmare to become that object. And then it's no longer like a threatening entity. And then on another world is Yumi, and Yumi's world is vastly different, and it's very like barren and difficult to live there. So in Yumi's world, in order to survive, they have like a lot of adaptations, and Yumi's job is basically she summons spirits and then convinces the spirits to turn into some type of object that will like help people in their lives. Like sometimes they need light, sometimes they need stuff for like their agriculture, things like that. So at the point that I'm at, basically Yumi had this day where she like set an all-time record for summoning like a crazy amount of spirits. Then at the end of that day, somehow, because she was like so in touch with the spirits, or like because she summoned so many of them and they were like grateful for it or something like that, because the spirits want to help the people. I'm not sure the reasoning behind it, but another spirit contacted Yumi and they're like, can we give you a gift? And this whole summoning spirit thing is like a religious thing for them. And so Yumi was like, oh my god, no, spirit, like I'm here to serve you. You absolutely cannot give me a gift. Can I give you a gift? And then there's this like cryptic message. And they're like, can you help us? We're trapped. Yumi's like, yeah, of course I can help you. So then Yumi like passes out. And then also like in Painter's world, he like goes home and he's like looking up at the night sky, and something like hurls out of the sky and hits him. I'm so sorry. Another thing too about their worlds is that like in Painter's world and in Yumi's world, there's this like planet that is like co-orbiting with them in like the solar system. And Yumi's world is much more primitive than Painter's, but even with the shroud they can still see this like secondary planet. And so I'm assuming that like one planet is Painter's and one is Yumi's, and like somehow the planets are like connected. The spirits maybe connect Painter to Yumi, and basically they put their consciousness in each other's bodies. So whenever they are awake in Yumi's world, Painter's consciousness is in Yumi's body, and like Yumi's kind of just chilling as a ghost. And then when they're in Painter's world, Yumi's consciousness is in Painter's body and he's just chilling like a ghost. It's definitely a very interesting setup so far. I'm enjoying it. I mean, not really much has happened other than like setting up these worlds. And yeah, I think today is gonna be a reading day. I'm gonna go change out of my Real People clothes into sweats, and I will probably do a little check-in later. Hello, it's a couple hours later, so I'm laying on the couch reading, so sorry for the bad angle and the bad lighting, but I'm not gonna get up just for this update. If you can hear something in the background, Jake is watching TV in the other room, but I just had to take a pause here because this book is so funny sometimes. Like, I wouldn't like categorize it like entirely as humorous, but there's just something that's like so silly about it at times. So like Yumi and Painter do not get along at first. Like they come from very different worlds. They have very different backgrounds, and like they're even just like their civilizations are in like different points
of development. So like they just have completely 100% different worldviews. And their not getting along is also a little bit complicated by the fact that Painter lied sort of to Yumi. It's not like a lie, but like he kind of misled her and gave her like some half truths when they first met. Part of it was due to sheer confusion, and part of it was because Painter was convinced he was just like dreaming and this wasn't real, and so he could just say whatever he wanted. And then like also part of it is due to like the fact that like Painter has this like very deep need to please people around him and also help him, but he's not necessarily capable of doing that the way that he wants or needs to. All of that kind of led to Painter being less than honest with Yumi, and then Yumi being rightfully resentful about that once it all came to light. So the two of them like don't always get along, and it's a Painter chapter. They alternate back and forth. Painter, in his internal monologue, says that Yumi is the human equivalent of missing the last bus home after work. And like, that is the harshest burn I have ever heard. Like, I am a woman that live streams video games on twitch.tv, and I have never been burned that savagely in my entire life. It's so funny. I can't get over it. It's so funny. I had to just stop. Anyways, I'm gonna continue reading. It is getting sort of close to my bedtime. I've still got like 4-ish hours before I'm gonna be asleep, so I don't know if I'm gonna finish the book tonight, but if I do, I probably won't update until tomorrow anyways. I have finished Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and I am so very, very happy to say that I love this book. The girlies are right. This is a 5-star read. I will say that I did not really get it until like the last third of the book. I was enjoying myself the entire time. Like, don't get me wrong, I was never bored. I never really disliked anything in the book. So like the entire time I was reading this, I was like, okay, I like this. This is really great, but it's not giving 5 stars. And then I got to like the final 100 and however many pages, and I was like, I get it. This book made me cry. This is a book that really you're only going to love it as much as you love Yumi and Painter, both as individual characters, but also together as a couple. Part of this story is a love story, but like keep in mind it is a Brandon Sanderson love story. I do think he does a good job of showing how two people can fall in love for the very first time together as kind of like a background amongst them living their lives and trying to solve their problems. The
romance is important, but also like not necessarily always front and center within the story. Honestly, it's just very, very sweet. I love seeing the two of them together. I love seeing how different they are and how they both have something to teach the other, and they both help each other grow. And it's just a really, really beautiful story. So I did talk a little bit about the plot. I don't think I want to elaborate on that at all because, like I said, this is less than 400 pages, so I don't really think I should say more than what I've already said about the actual plot itself, because I think that'd just be giving too much away, and I do highly recommend this book. At first, if I'm being totally honest, I didn't get why Painter. And I got Yumi and like who she is and why she's important and why she is special. And I fell in love with her as a character immediately. She is just so precious and so easy to love, and she is so like determined. She is so set in her ways, and like she's like, this is right, this is wrong, and I will only do what is right. Like she's quite a rigid character, but like in a way that is very endearing. I know that doesn't sound endearing, but like it just works for her. Painter is so much more flexible. Painter sees the world like entirely in shades of gray. The two of them together is a very interesting dynamic, but Painter is like an average person. Like within her world, on her world, Yumi is exceptional. She is one of 14 like specially picked women who have been trained their whole lives to do this very sacred selective duty. And not only that, Yumi is exceptional within her field. And Painter is the exact opposite of that. I mean, he isn't, but like he is. Like Painter has a very mundane life, a very mundane job. He's just like an average dude. And that is kind of the point. And at first I was like, why is this exceptional woman falling for this very average man? But then the more you get into the story, the more you start to see who Painter is and how internal he is and how artistic he is. And he is just so earnest, and he just truly, truly wants to help, but he doesn't really know how to help at times. By the end of the book, I was relating to Painter so hard because truly he is just trying his best. And I'm like, been there, dude, been there. As you get to know Painter, you find out that while he is a flawed person who has made some significant mistakes, and I want to say like he hasn't done anything evil, he's just like made mistakes that like people make all the time, you know what I'm saying? So he's made mistakes in life that have drastically impacted his life and have changed him, and that is part of why he is the way he is at the beginning of the book. But you also start to realize that he has never really had a support system in his life because Painter has always wanted to be a painter. It is why, even though he has a name, he is referred to as Painter for 95% of this book. And it's kind of funny because that sounds like such a fantastical job, but in Painter's world, it's actually kind of more similar to being like a construction worker in our world, where it is a dangerous job and people acknowledge that it's dangerous, but it's also very mundane. This is a job that he has desperately wanted to have his entire life, but like his family didn't really support that decision, and he is pretty awkward as a human. So like he never really had friends as a child, and now he's an adult. Both of the characters are 19 in this, so like they're still young, but like they are adults. Then he meets Yumi and things start to change. His perspective on the world changes, and he begins to kind of confront the mistakes that he made in his past. And he's just a real person. Like, Painter is so real. He is just himself. If you pick up this book and you're like, why is he one of the main characters? Like, you'll get there, okay? Like, you'll get there in the end. I just hope that you love Painter as much as I do. I also think too that Painter being just like an average person is very important thematically within this book, because one of the things that I love about this book, and it's something that I love in fantasy in general, is when fantasy looks at like the average Joe within the fantasy world and they're like, what are they doing? How are they surviving? How are they living? And also looks at how the average Joe can like impact the world around them, how they can sometimes save the world. I also really love character studies that kind of look at the duality of both being exceptional because you are an individual human within your world, and we are all unique individual beings and we all are exceptional in our own way, but at the same time we're all for the most part pretty average humans. And I just really like it when books kind of like look at that as an idea. It all really came together in the end. So we're ending this vlog on a win, even though I had to DNF the first book in it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really, really appreciate it. If you like this vlog, please consider subscribing. Next month is the Magical Readathon. It starts in like 4 days, so I'm so excited for that, and I will be doing weekly vlogs for the Magical Readathon. If you are participating in that, please let me know what you're going to be reading and like what your calling is. I'm going to be starting my 3rd year of Archmage. I cannot believe it's going to be the 3rd year. That's insanity to me. Thank you again for spending time with me today. Please stay safe this week, stay hydrated, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.